Hi everybody, welcome to this SevOne how-to video. Today's video is a how to use resource selection inside Data Insight using regex and shortcuts. And today's guest star is Rob Fisher, the product manager for Data Insight. Rob, thanks for joining today. Can you, show us a little bit about the new resource selections in Data Insight?
Absolutely. So we've basically implemented two major new features to make resource selection easier for users. I want to break them down into basically two sections. One is the ability to now use regular expressions as part of your resource selections. And the second item is the ability to save resource selection in the future using the new shortcuts features. So I'll start out with the first ability, which is basically regular expressions. So I'm going to start by adding a metadata widget, as this is sort of the easiest way to sort of see the resources show up on the thing. But this resource selection works with all of our popular widgets, the performance metrics, top end, alerts, etc. So with the metadata widget here, I'm going to be working with devices, just because it's very, very easy to see and understand. So generally, if I wanted to say, basically show metadata about all of my devices that are from Chicago or London on this particular server here, I have selected the display type as devices. So I can come in and say, hey, I want to find those devices. And traditionally, I have to come through and say, okay, I want the Chicago devices. I want to select all of these. And that's great. Now I want to go down and find all the London devices. So I got to keep scrolling. And then I want to find these London devices and come through and select all those. So as you can see, this is totally possible. And I can run this and get my results. So I had to do a lot of clicks here to get all of those devices. But as we see here, we have London and Chicago devices. But we recognize that that sort of thing is painful. And then additionally, if more Chicago or London devices are added to the system through discovery or manually in the NMS, and I want to add them, I have to come back into this report and basically come back and basically find them in the list and add them. And both of these things are sort of painful for a report creator to handle. So instead, what we've done is we've added the ability to add some regular expressions. So if you're a novice user and you just want to find Chicago devices, maybe you start typing Chicago. And what we've done is we've actually added a nice little shortcut for those who maybe aren't really familiar with regular expressions to be able to come in and say, hey, I just want to click this particular thing, and we'll match anything that matches CHI. In this case, we can run this. And we'll actually see that our results have come back and we've grabbed all the Chicago devices. But that wasn't our original use case. Our original use case is we wanted the Chicago and the London. So what I can do is I can start a regular expression. I can say, hey, for the start of the word, let's find CHI for Chicago, and then or LON for London, and my regular expression, hit that. And now if I come through and run, we'll notice that the widget will update here, and I have all of my Chicago devices and all of my London devices as though I have entered them manually. So with this one quick regular expression in here, I have basically gone through all the devices and matched those that start with Chicago or that start with the shortcut for London. And I can grab those devices really, really easily and to use this metadata widget. The difference between this and the manual way before, as opposed to this being a little easier if you're familiar with regular expressions, is that in the system on the NMS, if the discovery or an administrator adds new Chicago devices or new London devices, every time this report is run, this regular expression will run and will automatically add those new devices to this matching. So this is what we call future-proof. So this report, this widget can now basically just be considered to be all the Chicago and London devices now and into the future. So that's the first big piece around regular expressions.
That's great. That seems pretty straightforward, right? The ability to do the searches and across multiple names, effectively like you've done here, and then have that be saved effectively for any changes that do come later with new devices with those names. So it was like really helpful for those who have some standard way that they name devices, and makes it a lot easier for them to search and create some some groups here.
I have another really good device as an example. So in this list here, you can see there's some APs, AP01, AP02. And so let's say as an administrator or as a report creator, you actually want to find those devices. So you can actually do neat expressions like I have my AP that I want to match, and then I want to grab 2 decimals. So I want to grab everything that's AP, 0, 1, 0, 2, et cetera, et cetera. I can run that, hit go on that, and now we'll find basically, it doesn't matter where it's coming from, whether it be Chicago, San Francisco, or Singapore here. I'm grabbing all the access points that we had in the system that are basically AP 0, 1, 0, 2. If there was a 0, 3, 0, 4, et cetera, all these things would match. So again, it doesn't have to be a prefix. It can be, a more complicated search. It can be look for alphanumerics, look for just numerics, just alpha, et cetera. So we really have the ability here to go as deep as you want. I tend not to demo something too complicated because regular expressions can be very scary. But for those who are very confident with them, we have the ability to do some very, very, very powerful pattern matching.
Now, Rob, how does this interact or not interact with with grouping that may be done back in the NMS?
Excellent question. So this is basically a value add on top of the existing grouping. So we recognize that SevOne administrators have done a lot of work leveraging device and object group rules to create powerful and useful device groups and object groups, and we don't want to interfere with that. However, we realized that in a lot of cases, if I was, for example, a new employee and I wanted a Chicago and London group that did not exist, I would have to go back to an administrator and say, hey, please create a Chicago or London group. Or I could be given the privilege to do that, but then that can have consequences for other administrators within the NMS. If I am just a report creator, it doesn't seem to make sense to provide those privileges within the NMS or have to deal with the NMS. So we basically kept those two things separate. But what we've done is basically given the ability to have what are considered, sort of report specific groupings that you can build with these regular expressions that are independent of the device groups or the object groups. And this gives basically SevOne administrators a lot of confidence that they can allow report creators to do a lot of powerful things without actually impacting anything that sort of lives within their realm of responsibility. So the reporters can do kind of what they want without actually having any impact or additional workload on the administrators. So
Rob, but any other key features here out of out of resource selection you want to show us?
Absolutely. So we've also implemented the ability to do resource shortcuts. So over here for the resource type, we were dealing with devices, but we actually now have a whole new resource type called shortcut. And what this actually does is allows us to pick from a list of shortcuts that have been pre-created here that allows us to basically go through the process of just picking something that was there quickly, easily, and pre-established. So in here, we're looking at Steve's favorites. And we actually can click this little edit button here to come in and kind of see what Steve is looking at here. So it looks like what Steve's favorite shortcut is basically it's attached to the a particular data source. And then under the resource type, he started with device groups. And so if we come down here, we can see that the device groups are coming from this group, manufacturing, operating system, and topology. And then he's actually using one of our regular expressions in here as part of the shortcut to say, hey, find all the Chicago devices from these specific device groups. And so what he's done is basically matched everything in the Chicago in those very specific device groups. So the power here is that these could be the devices that Steve really cares about. Maybe Steve is responsible just for Chicago devices from those device groups, and that he wants to build that basically group for himself and be able to use that without actually having to impact the administrator, or basically calling up an administrator and saying, hey, could you make a Chicago group that has these devices in it when there already is a nice hierarchy there. And so this is neat because it gets us where we need to go very quickly. But there's a lot actually more powerful stuff to do that I want to show in a different widget. So if we come over to, say, a typical performance metric widget here, we can come over very quickly, say, hey, I want to go through a shortcut. I'm going to pick Steve's favorite. What's neat about this is still part of the resource hierarchy. So we've basically gone through this first step of device groups, and we've also gone through the second step of devices, and that's all been done because we've stuck at the resource shortcut. If we come to the resource type here, we still have our hierarchy. So you can pick an object, for example, or an object type or an indicator type and come through. So I can come through here and I can look for, network devices here. If I want, I can literally use, again, a regular expression to match all of that to find what I'm looking for very, very quickly. And these results that are being pulled up are actually being pulled from the matching set of all the devices that came through here. So there's actually quite a number of these items that are here. I can even skip that and go straight to an indicator. And let's say I wanted to find, HC in or out octets, anything that matches that. And you can see all the different items that are here. And I can just say, let's find availability is usually a very good one. So we'll do that. We'll add this to resources. And then I can actually just add this to the widget, and it'll find all those results and put them in the performance metrics widget, which is, you can use this as part of the shortcut to basically start your resource selection, but that doesn't mean that that's the ultimate result of that resource selection. So you can really use this as sort of like a pseudo object group or a pseudo device group, which brings you the results in very powerfully. But it's not just that you use these shortcuts. We also have a configuration page. So if we come over here and look, we have the ability to basically create shortcuts through this interface. You can give it a name. So I can call it, Rob's shortcuts, Rob's shortcut. I can give a description. And then I have the ability here to go through and basically choose the items that I want. So I could very cleverly use the Chicago and London regular expression that I used before. And now I can basically use that. If I wanted to further go down and say objects or indicators, I could do that, but I can save this. But then what's most important about this is I look at my shortcut here, we have a permissions tab. And so right now I'm logged in as admin, so I'm the owner of this. I can change that ownership over if I want. However, I can also say I want to share this, make it public so everyone in the system can see it. I can say I want to restrict it and pick specific users that I want to share this with. So maybe it's for me and a couple of my buddies in the system, or I can also say I want to share this with more than one tenant if I'm in a multi-tenant system, or if I'm a multi-team system, I can actually come through and say, hey, I want to share this with one or more team, whether it be the ACMECO or the CHOM collection for those student fans out there. I can share that with those teams. So what's really powerful here is that you can actually create not only these shortcuts to be used for yourself, but you can share them with other users, or you or someone else on the team could make a whole bunch of, say, capacity shortcuts and put them with the capacity reports as part of the capacity team. So you really have a lot of flexibility to build all of these, new recent features of data insight together to basically curate an experience that's very unique for a specific use case for users within the system.
Yeah, I'll say really powerful there in sense of the control it gives an individual user and to themselves and their teammates. So, yep. All right. Well, Rob, thanks for spending your time walking through, both resource, the broader resource selection on regex as well as the shortcut use and creation. Folks, if you have any questions on any of this activity, reach out to your account team or back to us at sevone.com. Thanks, everybody.